All right. Welcome to Verkle Implementers Call 22, PM issue 1119 in the PM repo. We have a pretty short agenda today. We have the usual updates from client teams, then up next, SSC measurements, some updates from Guillaume there, then Calcinen updates, and last up, Ignacio wanted to go through his new EIP for the state conversion. So just those four things on the agenda right now. Does anyone have any client teams have any updates I'd like to start with?
I guess I can start. We are still working on several things at the same time. One of them is implementing the fill cost, so we made some progress in this. Yeah, we also worked on the NIOTA cost. So there was a gigantic issue that we had that I wasted a couple of days on, but Perry helped me fix it last week. So we're going to resume that effort. Overall, yeah, we're not going to be able to do we're not going to be ready for testnet relaunch by the end of the month, obviously, but we're getting there. So hopefully by the end of the summer we'll be ready. And what else? Yeah, we did a series of measurements, but we'll be sharing this later. So that's it. Ignacio, you got something to add?
No, not much else. I will share the AAP updates later, so it's fine.
Yep, I think I can go next. So in Nethermind, we have implemented all the changes that we discussed for DevNet 7. So we are almost ready for DevNet 7. We still need to pass the Hive test. I'm not sure if we have like state test. I know we have transition test. That's one question. Like, do we have like test apart from transition test as well for Verkle? And second thing is I'll be off like later this week and the next week. But if we launch the testnet next week, I'll probably be available for that. So yeah, that's it.
Just to add, yes, I'm also off starting Thursday for 2 weeks, so I don't think we're launching anything. I mean, unless Ignacio wants to do that by himself.
Cool. Any other updates? On the question of which tests we currently have available, I don't know, Spencer, if you're free to maybe answer that question for Tanishq.
Yeah, sounds good. So it's currently just the transition tests. In the last call, we discussed creating a new release with the updated Geth branches that were used to fill the tests. But those branches produced the same fixtures for the transition tests. So the existing release for the transition tests is sufficient for now. With regards to state tests, my assumption is that those tests are starting at the Verkle fork. We don't have tests for that currently. I do have a branch to fill starting from Verkle on our existing tests, but they are not yet working on the test cases that Ignacio has produced. However, if it's worth having them working before DevNet 7, we can make a push for that.
Awesome.
Yes, if it's possible to get them working before DevNet 7, that'll be great because it'll be a good like kind of a test bed to test all the implementation against it, so that we don't start the testnet and like within like 100 blocks we find the issue, a consensus issue. So yeah.
Yeah, that would save a lot of time if we could have that ready before we launch.
No, that sounds good.
I also had a question. So we discussed this morning about because I have a lot of branches to merge. So thanks for that. Like I was able to check against what was filled, but if I want to fill again, like I'm still a bit not sure what I need to do if I want to fill again. Like, are you still blocked by a bug, or could we use the fill test to refill new tests so that I can check that my filling is correct compared to what I replay?
Yeah, we can still do that. I can send you information to refill the tests. I think it's the way we're currently doing it is there's like a lot of steps and it's using a different tooling, so it can be kind of confusing. So ideally I want to make it as easy as possible for everyone to just run a command and just be able to test everything. But I can send you the information to refill and then re-execute.
We can also use the tagging feature of the repo. I don't know if that have you tried that in a repo for Verkle? Because what we're doing for EOF right now is that we push new tests, and if there's a modification in EVM1, we tag any branch in a repo, and it automatically fetches the latest EVM1, compiles, and then refills. So we could do something similar here. So basically, we tag something for Verkle. It fetches latest Gulam's branches, builds, and refills automatically. It's pretty easy to do. We can set that up to make it easier.
But wait, because if it's the latest of one branch, what if I want to use a different branch, right? Because what I would like to do is currently I have a branch that's not merged into the main branch, and before I don't want to break anything, so I would like to test that branch before I merge it into the main one. Would that be possible to somehow specify that?
Of course. So how long do you think it's going to take until you merge that other branch into the main? Because if it's going to be like a long time, we can simply just push a PR right now to point directly to that branch, that other branch that you're working on. And this tagging method should automatically fill using that other branch. It's a super simple change. We can do it very quick.
That branch is just waiting for this to be merged. I mean, unless I found a bug, of course. So that branch would just be merged immediately. Then we have another one, which is Ignacio's branch that we are trying to use for test at Genesis. We would like to merge this one too. So we need to test it as well.
I see. In that case, so what we can do then is that we can create a branch in execution spec test that points to whatever branch you need to fill, and then just make the tags that we make for Verkle releases can just point to this alternative branch. And the only difference between main and this alternative branch is either Verkle changes, but on top of that, the EVM building and fetching and all that stuff will point to this other branch. I can create a PR, this alternative branch today, if I can. Just give us the branches that you need to point to.
Okay, yeah, that would be awesome. Thanks.
Cool. Okay, next up on the agenda, Guillaume, you had some updates on the SSC measurements that you were doing.
All right, let me share my window. Yeah, this one. So this is a document I'm currently working on. So it's not quite ready. So you'll see a lot of to-dos. But as a summary, we were trying two different ways to encode the witnesses, and now we have yet another one. The description is missing one of them. Not good. Okay. Oh no, sorry. So there's the one that's specified in the consensus spec, which I guess I can, if the link works. Yeah. Where is it? Right. So there's the traditional one where you have the same state diff as a stem, and then the list of suffix state diffs. So for each suffix, you have an optional current value and an optional new value. What we discovered is that because optional is not really supported by most SSZ libraries, including the Go ones, it tends to create very, very large witnesses. So we were experimenting with other ideas to try to reduce the amount of, first to remove the use of optionals, and on top of that, try to reduce the amount of nulls so that they are encoded properly. Well, turns out nulls are quite difficult to encode in the Go library and presumably in other libraries. So we wanted to try to avoid this. So we tried this first method where we put all the suffixes together, then all the current values together, and then all the new values together. So the index, for example, suffix like index I into suffixes will also have an index in current values and in new values. So the value can be null, so it's not perfect, but it was saving some space. We tried a second approach where we tried to remove any instance of null, so we would differentiate all the use cases. So, for example, there was the case where the value existed before and was overwritten. There was we call that an update. There was the case where the value did not exist before and was written to, so we call that an insert. And there was the case where the value existed before and was not modified. We call that a read. And then there's simply what we call missing, which is a value that did not exist before and is still not inserted. So you just need the list of suffixes. Ignacio came up with a third method, which is an improvement on the second one, which in which you get rid of the idea of the suffix state diff and you put everything in the same state diff directly. So you have the stem, and then you have a list of all the updates and all the reads and all the inserts and all the missing. And what you get out of this is that you remove because for each one of those lists, you have a counter. So if you repeat that structure multiple times, you have sorry, not a counter, but a header. So you repeat that header. So what we wanted to do, excuse me, is we wanted to get rid of this repetition of the list header. So we put the list itself inside the stem state diff, and every type of update is a fixed container, so it doesn't have any header. So we tried to see if it would save some space. And as it stands, yes, it does. So you can see that the spec, on average, I have the numbers here. The median witness size for the spec, so that includes witnesses that were produced between during the transition and after, so it's like a global view. But the median witness size is 700 kilobytes, which is quite large, and we go almost to 2 megabytes. When with type 1, so as a reminder, type 1 is just grouping the suffixes and the current values and the new values in lists. We do get a better approach, so it's already much smaller. The median is about 372 kilobytes, and the maximum block size we could find was, it's been done by replying, by the way, I should have added. It's 1.3 megabytes about, so it's much smaller. Then what we did was try the second method. So as a reminder, the second method is you try to get rid of all the nulls because the nulls were poorly encoded. So we expected it to be smaller, and indeed it is smaller. The median is now 322 kilobytes, so we shave 50K on average. And the maximum block size is less than 1 megabyte. And the final method, the one we proposed, where all the like the structure is removed to try to shave off the list headers. It does work because the median size for the witness is less than 300 kilobytes. We still have the maximum block size, so it doesn't really have an impact on the maximum block size. But that's because this block is most likely very pathological. So these are preliminary results. For example, this is a bit surprising that they have exactly the same maximum block size. So yeah, we need to dig into this. We also need to dig into how much of that space goes to the current value and how much of that space goes to the new value, because even though we say, well, it should be fine to also have the new value, maybe, if it takes more than 50% of the block size, maybe we want to get rid of it. So yeah, that's the first graph I wanted to show. And I'm skipping ahead to the end where like this diagram was conflating both the sizes during the conversion and after the conversion. Here we ignore the conversion because it's not really representative. It's only values that were not existent and got copied from the MPT. So we see that once the conversion is over, the tree is a bit bigger. So the median size in case of type 2 is almost 400 kilobytes. And the type 3 still shaves some space, but the worst case is still the same. The type 1 is not as bad. I'm trying to remember what the value was. Yeah, it's a bit worse than the overall view, but it's still less than half a megabyte. So the conclusion at this point, even though the document is not completely written, is to say, well, maybe for the new testnet, we should be using that new type, this new witness type that is much smaller. And the problem with this approach is that it requires some input from the CLs. But yeah, I just wanted to know what people thought. Do we want to change the witness format at this point? We can do it later too. Just trying to gauge if it's worth the effort at the moment.
I think if we have this big of differences, we should try and change the size, but I'm not very sure if we should do it in the next testnet. Like it also depends on when we are starting the next testnet, but what I'm thinking is that we are changing a lot of things at once.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of chances to like some of the things break and some doesn't, and that kind of creates it hard to debug as well. So if we can like kind of only do the changes we discussed in interop or basically other things that we added to that in DevNet 7, and then we can move this change to DevNet 8, that'll be good. But I'm okay with doing this in DevNet 7 as well.
Yeah, I'm also quite on the fence about this. I like the size gains, but we still are going through some testing, so we might find an even better approach. Yeah, I guess we, like Tanishk is right. We should not do this. I'm still open for other people's opinion, but since there's more work to do, maybe we should wait actually.
On the CL side, I can probably make the changes. That is not a big deal, depending upon whether we want to do this change for the next DevNet.
Guillaume, you mind sharing a link to that note?
Not yet, because it's work in progress, and I need to. A lot of the text is nonsensical. I need to keep editing it. So if you don't mind, I'll share it. Midsummer when it's a bit more thought through and ready.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool. Then next up on the agenda, any updates on Kaustinen?
Yeah, I had two questions actually. One of them, the answer is probably going to be the same as the previous one. In Kenya, Kev was pushing to replace the proof format from this SSZ stuff we've got. So just to be clear, there's the witness part, the state diffs, right? And there's the actual cryptographic proof, all the IP vectors, the final evaluation, et cetera, et cetera. Kev was pushing to move this back from SSZ/JSON into an opaque binary format. I mean, we agreed we should do that in the long run. The question is when. So my question was roughly, do we want to do it for Kaustinen 7? I expect the answer is going to be the same. Let's focus on the, what exactly, Tanish. I agree with that, but yeah, I just wanted to put it out there so that people have a say.
One small point, I was involved with Kev when that was discussed, and one of the reasons was because one of the underlying ROS cryptography wasm that we use notably in Ethereum.js required the opaque format rather than the explicit format. But since then, we've modified the underlying library to be able to consume the explicit format that we have in Kaustinen 6. So I don't think there's any urgency to do that in Kaustinen 7.
Cool. Well, then that settles it, because at the same time, we don't want to have to change the CL twice. So might as well wait for when we do the SSZ update as well. My second question about Kaustinen 7 was, initially we said we should do Kaustinen 7 including the cost we agreed on in Kenya, and also the field costs. On my side, I've been working on trying to integrate more stuff into Geth Master to simplify the rebase. The rebase on top of Cancun, which hopefully we can do on DevNet 8. And as it turns out, there's a lot of changes currently going into Master that will make the implementation of the field cost much easier. So I wanted to ask if everybody would be fine with changing the spec for DevNet 7, which would be to have all the Kenyan costs except for field cost, because for us that would incur a rebase, and we're probably going to need another 2 months to do this. So yeah, if that's what we need, if there's some pushback, we'll make it happen, but it's going to take 2 months. Just let me know what you think.
I think if it's gonna take that long, then we can probably skip it with this testnet.
Any opinion from Ethereum.js?
I personally don't have a view or objection on this.
Cool. Oh, Gary's here as well. Gary, did you guys implement field cost already?
No, we did not implement fill costs.
Okay, so for you that would be actually also a good thing not to have that for the next testnet.
Yep, exactly.
Excellent. Yeah, I don't know, maybe Subnat or Oliver, you have a comment on this for your own implementations? Oh, Roman is here too.
Nothing from me.
Okay, cool. Then thank you. I guess we're doing this, and so that we can have a new testnet. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
was gonna say I arrived a bit late. Do we have a link to the criteria apart from the Kenya costs that are going to be DevNet 7? Is it mostly going to be the Kenya costs?
It's so I think we haven't merged the PR yet. I need to check, but it's the Kenyan cost except the fill cost. So if the EIP has not been updated, we will merge it. We should merge it today. Get Vinder if we haven't done so. And it's just the EIP. So all you have to do is check the EIP and set all the fill costs to 0.
Great.
Okay, cool. So then last up on the agenda, Ignacio, do you want to go through your new EIP for the state transition?
Sure, I will share my screen. Hold a second. So before talking about that one, I also made a lot other 2 PRs that I shared in the Matrix channel, but just in case I'm mentioning them here. One of them is some quick fixes on 7612. Nothing really that interesting here, but I will share this link in the chat some minutes. The other one is an update in 6800. And here it's basically a naming fix, but also I clarify how we encode the fields in the new basic data leaf. This is part of the change that were decided in Kenya. So previously the PR kind of assumed that we encoded the code size, nonce, and balance in Little Endian. But that was problematic because we had the intention. Okay, so if we remember, something important is that we have 4 reserved bytes between the version and the code size. And one of the ideas was that choosing this ordering, where we have these 4 bytes before the code size, was interesting, because if in the future we wanted to bump the size of the code size, like things will be properly aligned, so we can use one of those 4 bytes for extending the code size. But the problem with that was that if we were saving this in Little Endian, like this was wrong, because like we need this reserve byte to be the new most significant byte of the code size, not the least significant byte. So what I proposed, and this got merged a bit fast because auto merge did it, was just changing everything to big endian. So basically that means that code size will be big endian, and then we can kind of extend this in the future using this extra byte that is on the left. So that was like the main intention. So just be aware of this, because this is part of a change that you should account for the next DevNet. It should be pretty easy, just like change the encoding from Little Endian to Big Endian, and it should be fine. I will share the link also in the chat in some minutes. And then I created a new EP, which has number 7748. And basically it's a formalization of all this state conversion algorithm that we have discussed like in the last months or even more. So I will switch to a better view here. So I won't go through all this in detail, because might be quite long, but the style of the CIP is like quite related to the execution specs code base. So it's mostly described as code, which I hope will make things even easier to understand, because I know maybe explaining all this in text would be a bit confusing. So yeah, if you are used to the execution spec in Python, this will make hopefully a lot of sense. But if not, that's fine. It should be pretty intuitive. So basically, in these first like 4 or 5 code sections, I just describe some helper functions or some code additions in existing files. And basically, the last code chunk is the actual main logic for the conversion, where you basically walk through the MPT, and for each thing you have to migrate, you have like all the logic. So yeah, I added a lot of comments, so just to make things as clear as possible. So hopefully this should feel simple. I mean, there shouldn't be any kind of weird thing. And I also, in the rationale section, added like multiple sections with expected questions that I guess most people reading this CIP might have. Like why we chose to put the conversion in the proposed place in the execution pipeline, like why we choose the conversion stride number. Yeah, miss slots and other things. Something also that I want to say is that I included in this proposal also this idea of like removing all these remaining accounts that are related to EAP 158, because we have still some of them, and we have talked about many times that during the conversion we can finish up this cleaning. So that is included too. So yeah, so feel free to simply take a look and make any comment. All the code here is very like high level. Nothing around this really depends directly on the Verkle tree itself. So if we have to do another migration in the future, probably will be pretty similar. So yeah, I think it's like useful to mature this, and because we have to eventually do a conversion. So I think it's useful to make progress on this and really solidify if this is the right strategy or we have to include something else. That's it.
Cool. Anything else? Oh, there's a question from Gary in the chat. Just confirming that there's no other changes, just the gas witness cost. I think that's right, Guillaume. Maybe you can confirm.
Yeah, sorry, I need to remember. I mean, it's mostly that and bug fixes. We have a list in our repo that we tagged every PR that is connected. Yeah, it's a fix. So the only major difference are the costs. Indeed, we add the parent state root in the execution witness. So that stateless clients don't need to download 2 blocks to execute the second block. And we also used 2935 that was agreed on in Pectra. So the difference is that instead of at block activation inserting everything into the contract, we just insert the last block and that's it. It should make a difference for that testnet because we start at Genesis, but the behavior is a bit different, so just be aware of that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, right. So it's a bug fix, but I can share the issue in the chat. The major difference is where we charge the witness gas cost, because there are two cases where 1/64 of the gas is subtracted. One of them is in create and the other one is in call, and they don't happen at the same time. Meaning, I'm trying to remember, but it's explained in the issue I just shared. For call, I think they are charged before executing the contract, whereas for contract creation they are charged as part of contract execution. There's a bit of a finicky thing like this. I don't quite remember, but yeah, if it's not clear from the issue I just shared, we will we'll discuss about it, and we'll make sure we all agree.
Okay, cool. If nothing else, we can end the call there. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.
When do we want to launch DevNet 7?
Not before end of August.
So, Spencer, did you have something?
Yeah, just a small thing while I remember. Would it be okay for us to change the fork name from Prague to a different name? Maybe we want to do this after DevNet 7, but just from our side, there's some workarounds because we have the Prague test as well within our framework.
Yeah, it's a bit of a pain, I agree. Yeah, we can change them. We can change them. It's not a big deal. Yeah, let's do that.
Change to what?
So, in fact, we should do that in Kurtosis too. Currently, everything is activated on Prague, right? When you set a when you set a fork activation time, you say override Prague time, because when this branch that we use was created, Verkle was supposed to be in Prague. Now it's Osaka. Yeah, now we want. I mean, in Geth Master, it's already known as Verkle and not Prague, but in that branch, it remained as Prague. I think everybody was. I mean, okay, I don't know. I get the impression that every other client was doing the same, but it should not be known as Prague. It should be known as Verkle time.
All right.
And I just want to point out that Perry was the one insisting that it should be called Prague, and now he's the one insisting it should be called Verkle. Yeah. All right, enough. Yeah, any other question?
Cool. All right. That's it then. See
Yep.
you all soon.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.